Shalom, people. This is Brother Laos coming at you with another video. And we thank the Most High for being here today with you as we go over, I think, a very important and prudent topic today, talking about fashion. Fading fashion. You know, I was mulling over in my mind what I was going to give the name of this video. And my initial thought was the end of fashion. But as I Googled the topic into Google, it came up with first a band that is called The End of Fashion, or The End of Fashion. It's an actual band called that. Then it was I think it was a book also about these fashion designers that was basically talking about the end of fashion, or the creativity, that creativity in the fashion industry basically had hit a end road. I always think about the scripture that is in Ecclesiastes, and some people say that Solomon wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. I don't know. It probably was because of, the ending, where he said all is vanity. But whoever the author was, he said that there's nothing new under the sun. And so I believe that this is something that is not endemic of this age. I'm pretty sure that those back in the 1800s probably said the same thing. But when you come up with different materials, different thoughts on morality, fashion will change. I think about the 1970s and some of the crazy fashions back then. At least now that we look back at it, it looks crazy. At the time, it wasn't considered to be crazy, with the enormous platform shoes that we used to wear, and the different multicolored shirts and different things like that we were wearing. I'm sure that people thought after that age it could never be anything beyond that. But for whatever reason, in this time period, some fashion designers think that is the case. I think what they are wanting to, or rather what they are seeing, is that how much more degrading can the fashion get, in the sense of how the lines are being crossed between the man and the woman's fashion. It used to be, the men were going to have, nice suits and different things like that they would come out on the runway with, things that accentuated their manliness. But now it seems like they're going into this unisex type thing, where the men can wear what the women wear, and the women can wear what the men wear, which is getting off into another subject, that we probably want to get into one day, the Baphomet, where you have the melding of the animal, the female and the male, right? Which is supposed to be a image of who Hasatan, or Satan, is. That he's not male, he's not female, he's not animal, he's all the above. He can be whatever you want him to be. And therefore you see that in the fashion industry, The men, it seems like, are the ones that are behind the scenes sometimes in front, but behind the scenes, they are the ones that are pushing it. And these are usually men that are LGBTQ, right? Um, and so we have this where it is where we're gonna go next. But the Bible also talks about the fashion of this world, right? This not just the clothes that we wear, but how society carries itself, right? How uh, the thought process that you go through to get to certain things, right? Different thought patterns and different ideologies that need to be considered, right, in your decision making needs to be influenced by these different thoughts. What is the fashion of the time, as in like during slavery time? It was a thought process that had been put upon the Western powers that it was the norm to have slaves. It was the norm for uh, a plantation owner to have, uh, women slaves down in the cabin areas that he would go. It was the fashion of the day. And if you didn't have it, people would be like, what's wrong with you? And so, not just these examples, but many other examples that we will try to show how all this is fading fashion in the Bible warned us about this, that we as believers, both Hebrew and Gentile, were to get away from this fading fashion. So let's get into the lesson. We're gonna start at James, the first chapter, and we're gonna start at verse 9. We're gonna start at James, first chapter, starting at verse 9, and it says this: Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass, he shall pass away. For the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof falleth, and the grace of the fashion of it perisheth. So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Master has promised to them that love him. And I thought will be coming from verse 11. And the grace of the fashion of it perished. And the grace of the fashion of it perisheth. Talking about the riches of this world, not just the men, but the riches, what they exemplify. As I was talking to someone, I was saying, if you go to these, European museums, you will see all of these beautiful portraits with these kings and queens elaborately dressed in these beautiful dresses and outfits and jewels and all these things, and they'll have them painted up with no imperfections in their face, and hair is in place, and all these other kind of things. And one would look at that and say, oh, what a elegant, or what a regal person this person was. But the Bible lets us know that as we try to emulate that, or we try to emulate the world leaders or the music moguls or the sports stars, in their dress when you have the Met, I think it's Met Gala, where they have these celebrities and people dress up in the most eccentric type dresses and outfits and everything. How we try to emulate that, and the Bible tells us this stuff is going to pass away. I just got through talking about the 1970s and how that fashion, when it came out, we black people had the afros, had the platform shoes, they had the outfits, accentuating black power and all these things. And some maybe felt that this is the fashion to end all, to be all, but it faded away. It went away. And one of the things that we as black people, as Hebrew people worldwide, that the Most High has to deliver us from is fashion. The fashion industry in 2023 is estimated to bring in $1.7 trillion here in America alone. And I would dare say that a lot of that money is going to be coming from us, the black community, because we are slaves to fashion. When we were on the plantations, and the only thing that we had to wear was a pair of pants and a shirt and maybe a pair of shoes for the men, and a dress, and maybe a something to cover her head, a bonnet or something for the black woman, and maybe a pair of shoes. We was just concerned about being able to keep warm or to keep cool, right? But as soon as and so the thought of all that we had left, maybe in Africa, where we maybe some came from some royal lineage where they had whatever kind of native regalia with gold and jewelry and different things that you see some of the African chiefs and people wearing. All that went away when we got to America. That all faded away. And then when we got on the plantations, as I said, we was just given what the master wanted to give us. But as soon as we got out of slavery and we somewhat had some kind of opportunity, you've seen how we as black people, and there's nothing wrong with that, we should have tried to dress what you consider to be decent, right? And I think that was the mindset at the beginning of black people, like I said, coming out of slavery and going into Reconstruction. Was, hey, we want to get out of these clothes. We want to be able to dress decently, proper. I understand that. And we did, for the most part, have a decent dress style. Maybe not the sharecroppers who had very little money to spend. But as soon as it seemed like the northern migration set off, and where our people was tired of Jim Crow, and it was tired of the lynching, and they started moving up into the northern regions of the country: Chicago, New York, DC, Philadelphia. And we had a chance to lead the plantations and things like that, sharecropping. We got into this fashion thing, right? Where, in order, I guess, to forget all the stuff that had went on down in the South, right? Our people really became slaves to the fashions. And that's one of the things that when people look back endearingly on, what they said was the black, heyday of the black family back during that time when we had to stick together. They look at how our people were impeccably dressed. Well, over amount of time now, that has become, like I said, a liability to us. It has become that we are slaves to this fashion. And the thing about it is, it's fading. The not Paul, James here says that all these things that you see is fading out. It's just like the flowers. It's just like the grass. When you go out there and you look at your, this summer, and you have a lawn and you see the grass and you say, oh, the grass is too high. I got to get out there with the lawnmower and cut it, get the weeder out and cut it. And then it's, usually what I would do, I would cut it early in the morning before it got too hot, because I knew by the time that noon rolled around, right, if you want to cut the grass while it's kind of still moist or whatever, because the sun can stunt the growth. So once you cut it, right, about noontime, that grass that has been cut, that sun starts to dry that grass out, and then you rake it up. Or if you had it if you had a lawnmower that was that catches the lawn clippings, you take that bag and you dump that stuff in the lawn disposal container, and you set it out for the city to come get it and do whatever they're gonna do with it. He said that's how the fashion of this world is going. How we uplift certain things, how we uplift certain people, how we uplift certain trends. He said they're gonna be fading away, and how we must be cognizant. We must be aware that as Black people, as Hebrew people, especially as we going into the times that we getting ready to go in, where the things that and I ain't saying that this is not already happening. It definitely is happening to some people because of the homelessness that's going on in this country, in particular by the Black people. But us, right, that are in the middle class and upper middle class, right, what we're seeing now overseas, right, in some of these refugee camps and different things like that. If the Most High is gracious to us, it might be worse than this, but things like this are coming. One can go back and look at the Great Depression, right, and see what a lot of people were going through there. And I think that was definitely a warning to America at that time, that was time for them to get their act together. And the Most High, through George Washington Carver, with his crop rotations and different things he did to help get rid of the Dust Bowl and to bring back some agricultural stability to this country, and other things that the Most High allowed this country. What did they end up doing? They end up coming out of that and going into World War II, just pretty much nullifying all that the Most High did. He gave Babylon a chance to repent, and they didn't repent. They didn't. They went right back into the things that they had been doing, right? But I think this time, when we go into this, either it's going to be through war or it's going to be through economics. I don't think we're going to be coming out of it, and thereby this quote unquote fashion sense that people have, going to the most fashionable schools, wearing the most fashionable clothes, having the most fashionable car, all that's going to fade away, and people are just going to be trying to find their next meal. I really believe that if we live long, the Most High delay His coming, I believe we're going to see that. And therefore, we need to be aware that as believers, that all this is fading away, right? And we not that we go around and we go to the bargain basement to buy our clothes or anything like that, but we need to be leery of this as we exalt these people and these fashions and these things that's gonna go away. Let's see what First Corinthians says about the fading fashion. First Corinthians, and this is Paul talking right here. 1 Corinthians 7:31 says this. It says, and they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away. The fashion of this world passeth away. Paul, in this 7th chapter, was talking about relationships. And we can get into that discussion, but overall, I wanted to look at that one verse that he's saying. He said the fashion of this world, and in this case, it was talking about whether to be married or not to be married. He said the time is going to come where if you married, it's going to be like you're not married. If you not married, it's going to be like you are married. And what I believe at that time, Paul was seeing, I believe, in the future what was going to be happening to our people in the trans-Arab and transatlantic slave trade, where it didn't matter, if you was married, not married, or whatever. Once you was captured and you was taken to that slave castle, if you survived that, you got on the ship. If you survived that, once you got to America, all that was going to be nullified. All the thoughts of your family, your wife, whoever was going to be gone. And even if while you was in slavery, you got married, it was like as if you wasn't married, because the slave master could come down into the cabin and sleep with your wife if he wanted to, or he could sell you apart. So he was seeing this, and he was saying all of this is going to pass away. The fashion of it. He said those that's doing the different things that they're doing right now. He said one day you're going to look back and say, where did it all go? And so it's the same of what I believe we get ready to go into now, right? That we had a period of little stability, right? To collect our thoughts and get a little education. The Most High allowed some of us to go off to college and get some education and learn some different things to disseminate out to our people. Even this knowledge of who we are came from different things people was able to research and everything. But the time is coming where this videos are gonna go away. This little library that I got is gonna go. This house, everything. Maybe even the clothes that I got on my back. Who knows what can happen if not just economic, but military action is brought against this nation, where we will be. You see what's going on over there in Palestine. You see how those people's houses was leveled, and they're just trying to keep their life. They don't have no food. They don't have no water. None of these different things. They're trying to get the basic necessities. One of these days, that's going to come here to this nation. And some are going to say, well, it happened before. It happened with the Great Depression. It happened to us in slavery, where we was treated. But this time when it comes, this is going to be the downfall of this nation, and it's never going to rise again. And if I'm alive, if you're alive that's watching this video, you're not going to be thinking about you think about the Israelites when they went out from Egypt, right? And they was wandering after they had disobeyed Yah, and he said, you're going to wander through the desert. And they was always sitting back thinking in their mind, you know what, I left in Egypt. I left this and I left that. And most of those people that thought that way, they perished in the desert. But where the Most High is getting ready to send to us, and we gonna have to be leery of this, and wherever He's gonna allow us as individuals, as groups to land, that we're gonna have to not be thinking about that we used to have, because it's gonna have faded away. The fashion of it is gonna be gone. You think about Katrina, and they said that some people they lost everything, and when they left, some of them never came back to New Orleans, and have never been back to those homes or those apartments or any of this stuff. that got washed over, got washed away. They never came back, and the fashion of it faded. They got to it. You think about our people with the Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina, and all the other places that we had that got burnt down in riots. You think about the Red Summer and how, and you think about at one time black people had over 19 million acres of land, and now we're down to less than a million. You think about how, like I said, some of them think back to that and they look at it and say it's all gone. This passed away. The fashion of it, of us being farmers, it's coming back, but it'll never be the way it was at one time. It's just a faint a shadow of what it was, because it all faded away. And the Bible said eventually all of this that we see, no matter where we go, is going to fade away. Look, this is Matthew, right? Matthew 24:35. This is what Yeshua said. He said, actually we're gonna start at verse 32. He said, "Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, you know the summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away," right? "But of that day and at that hour no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only," right? And so this is Yeshua who's talking about, right? People saying, when is your coming gonna be? He said, when you see the fig tree, when you see the leaves coming on the fig tree. And so okay, that's just even used if you believe that the ish people that's over there in the land are the real people, as the sense of them being the leaves coming on a fig tree. Even if you believe that will let you know something. I don't believe that is the sign. I believe that was a manufactured sign by the enemy to alert to his people that he's trying to preempt what y'all. I think the coming of the fig leaves is the waking up of our people. A beginning, I believe, in the 60s, when our people start waking up and saying, hey, this thing that now the devil was able to co-opt that. But you can even see our progression, how we was thinking that we was African kings, and then we started thinking we was Egyptians in the 70s, and then eventually this thing started creeping out, through the cracks about, hey, who are the real people, right? And it wasn't coming from us; it was coming from some of their own people over there. That are we even the real people, and does it even matter with Arthur Koestler and all these people, right? But then our people, right? Different thoughts and then the windows start popping up where they were saying, hey, at one time, people here in America, black people that had was saying that they were the people, but it kind of got pushed under the rug or whatever. And then of course all this other stuff start coming out, and then we start seeing in the 2000s where our people just start waking up. I believe that was the fig leaves coming on the tree, right? And he's saying, when you see that, know that his return is even at the doors, and also the fact that he said the generation that sees the fig leaves coming, that generation will not have passed away until they see his coming back. So I believe that my children's and our children's children will be of that generation that will see Yeshua come. But in the meantime, all this stuff that we see, he said heaven and earth, right? This stuff in the heavens, these satellites and all this other stuff floating on, this stuff here on earth. He said that stuff is going to pass away. Why it's got to pass away? It's got to pass away because when Yeshua brings in his new kingdom, all this stuff, housing, skyscrapers, all this stuff that was built in rebellion to him is going to have to get done away with. You even remember the scripture where he said that they're going to take their weapons of war. They're going to take their swords, and they're going to make plowshares and their swords into pruning hooks. All this stuff, right? The fashion of it is going to pass away, and the thought process of mankind is not going to be a thought of war anymore. Not a thought of gain. It's going to be a thought of peace, plenty, prosperity for all those that make it through all the destruction that is going to have to come to this earth to upend the thought process of mankind, that this is not the fashion of what the Most High would want you to live in forever. This is why he has to come back. Because that just say, for instance, right, that if black people, right, where we got this argument among some blacks about who should be elected as president, or who you should get behind, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Cornel West or any of these. The problem with any of them is, even if they give you a part of what you want, this ultimately is not the kind of kingdom that the Most High wants his people, right? Both Hebrew and Gentile, no matter what nation you're in. He does not want you living in such a place, because ultimately, whatever that kingdom is down here is going to be part of that statue that Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar the second seen, that had to be destroyed when Yeshua came and hit its feet. Remember? It said that the final kingdom would be partly iron and partly clay, and it would be barely held together, right? It's weak, it's fragile, it's just kind of put together, right? Because we know that iron and clay can't mix, so it's shaky. So we know that kingdom, and indeed the entire statue, had to be destroyed, just as the tree that Nebuchadnezzar, he said it was cut down, right? And so the fashion of it is going to pass away. So ultimately, it would just be a temporary fix if we could get what we want as black people, and then you could get the money that you want, and you could go out and buy whatever kind of clothes you want, whatever kind of house you want, whatever kind of car you want. It's that eventually all that you have will pass away. The only hope that this world, and indeed our people, have is when Yeshua comes back to set up his kingdom, and the fashion of it is what is going to last forever. This is what First Peter tells us, right? Look what Peter tells us in 1 Peter 4:7, right? He said, actually, let's start at verse 6. He said, "For this cause was the gospel preached to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to Yah in the spirit. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober, and watch unto prayer." Right? Now, that is a very interesting scripture that Peter brings in verse 6, where he talks about the gospel was preached to them that are dead. And in that, he is just talking about when Yeshua went into the heart of the earth and preached to the spirits that were sometime disobedient, also to those that were in Abraham's bosom, that he preached to and told them, "I am he that you were waiting for." And then we know the Bible said he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men, right? But he said the end of all things is at hand, right? The end of all things is at hand. He said, what? He said, therefore be sober and watch unto prayer, right? That's not get caught up into the fashion of this world. That's not saying that's not go to school, get your education if you can. That's not saying not get a job. That's not saying go out into some compound out in the woods somewhere and just sit and wait and look up at the sky. He said, occupy till I come, but also have that awareness that all this is going to pass away. Even if you die before Yeshua comes back, even the stuff that you see as fashionable today is going to be gone. You can think about the Model T car when it came out, right? It used to be millions of them on the road. Where are they at now? They faded away. It's the same thing when people say, well, there was no such thing as a transatlantic slavery because where did all those slave ships go? They faded away. They went away. They were never meant to last forever. Nobody was going to sit and find some shipyard and say, all those ships that we used to send, put slaves in, let's just sit them off to the side so that people will know that once we it came out of fashion to do slavery. And in fact, some of them were converted to cargo. Well, they were cargo ships anyway that they was created. So they just repurposed them for what they were, or they got burned up, or they just went away because then metal boats came out. They didn't need the wooden ones because the fashion of it went away, right? Just like at one time they had these mighty battleships. But when the Japanese came through Pearl Harbor and bombed what they call Battleship Row, they was like, well, let's go to the aircraft carrier. Nobody said, well, I wonder was there such a thing as battleships at one time? Yeah, because we only see one battleship, and that was the USS Iowa that they used in the first Gulf War, right? And then after that, that was the last and first time. That was the last time it was used, right? And then I think they had an explosion on it, and a lot of sailors got killed. But this is just talking about life in general. It's going to pass away, but there are certain principles and things that will never pass away. Just like Paul said in 1 Corinthians, let's go there. 1 Corinthians 12, I think it is. No, 13. Yeah. He said, talking about charity. Okay, so yeah, here we go. 1 Corinthians 13 and 8. He said, charity never faileth. Whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Right? And so he was saying here, all prophecies, teachings, knowledge, all of that is going to vanish away, and it's gonna fade away. The fashion of it is gonna fade away, because you can remember the name it, claim it gospel. You can remember the prosperity gospel. All these things fade away. The fashion of it went away, right? And it Most High delays the coming of His Son. Even this thing that we call the quote unquote Hebrew Israelite thing, the fashion of it won't go away, but it'll morph into just one of many other, right? He said, but the love of Yah, the things of the Most High, the things of the Spirit, they'll never fade away, because the fashion of them are not from earth. They're from heaven, right? They're from heaven, whatever comes from heaven. That's why he said, store not up for yourself treasures here on earth that moth and rust will get, but store up treasures in heaven where it can't get to. Because you think about this, if you had you spent tens of thousands of dollars in the 1970s for the fashion of that era back then, would those clothes even exist? And then if they did exist today, you wouldn't wear them. They would have faded away, because they went away. But the fashion of love, the fashion of hope, the fashion of peace, the fashion of temperance and patience, that'll never pass away. This is let's go to uh, St. Matthew, right? St. Matthew 12:42. It says this: the queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with this generation and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, a greater than Solomon was here. What did the queen of South say when she seen Solomon? She seen the fashion of his throne. She seen the fashion of his servant. She seen the fashion of what he was wearing and how he carried himself. And the Bible said that she was blown away. Her breath was taken away, right? And the theory is that he slept with her, and when she went back to her kingdom, she gave birth to a child called Menelik, whatever, and from that came the line of Haile Selassie. I don't know if it's true. It probably could be true because we know Solomon had wives in many nations. We know he had his first wife was the daughter of the king Pharaoh of Egypt. So yeah, it's believable that happened. But the point is, she was blown away with his fashion. But Yeshua came and said, you know what? She was taken away by the fading fashion of Solomon, right? Which is not even here anymore. He said, but I, who are greater than Solomon. But the thing about Yeshua, he wasn't flashy. Some say that he might have wore rabbinic clothes. I don't know. That could be true. You know, they say he had the border. I don't necessarily hold that as to have to be, because we know one of the things that Yeshua used to criticize the scribes and the Pharisees is their outlandish way they wore their clothes, their fashion, right? That was out ostentatious, right? And he said, make broad the borders of their phylacteries and all these things. They was into that. And he said, you have neglected the weightier matters of Yah's law, right? So understanding that if Yeshua was a carpenter, he dressed as an everyday man. And although he was called Rabbi Rabboni, it wasn't the clothes that identified him as a teacher, is what came up out of his mouth, right? It was that distinguished him, not his clothes. I say today, especially in the black religious world where I'm at, fashion is all important, and the bishop robes and the crosses and all these different things that these people like to wear that to identify them, but not what comes out of their mouth and not what comes out of their life. And this is what's important, even in this Hebrew thing, that the fashion of it will eventually, if Most High delays the coming of his son, it will fade away and it will become one of many. And so that's why we got to put our hope and put our power behind the fashion of the things of heaven, right? The weightier matters of the law, not the outward appearance, but what's on the inside, how we treat one another, how we treat our family, how we get out there and not just speak the word, but live the word, right? And don't promote all this evil and sin, and don't promote people or don't promote any evil that we would see in our life, that we got to get rid of it. And look at this. This is also Matthew 6:29. This talking about Solomon, because in Freemasonry, one of the things they always talking about, go to Matthew 6:29. One of the things they always talking about is Solomon. But look what Yeshua says about Solomon in talking about his fashion. Let's go to verse 28. He said, and why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if Yah so clothe the grass of the field, which is today and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe ye, O ye of little faith? Therefore take no thought, saying, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, or whether shall ye be clothed. For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For our heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of Yah and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for tomorrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. He said, look, Solomon was fashion conscious, and he blew everybody away, but he was not even to be compared to one of these water lilies out here that the Most High created, right? But to the next day, the sun come out and you pull that thing up out of the water and throw it on the ground, it'll wither up and be cast off. He said, how much more if Yah clothe that lily, will he clothe you? And like I said, we know Yeshua seen our suffering was going to come. All this came to fruition when they captured us over in Africa, and we went naked most of the time until we got to America and went into them slave plantations with little or nothing. Right? You understand what I'm saying? It all came to fruition. I submit to you, I believe that Yah's people, both Hebrew and Gentile, he gonna help us through that. But all wicked, all that do evil in the West, when Yah bring his judgment, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised, especially the Gentile believers, right? That, you might find yourself in some of them same situations that your ancestors put us in, right? Because the other nations do not like what America's doing. They don't just like the war that has been brought to their shores, but also the evil fashion of America that America had tried to push on other nations, the evil fashion of how they wanted to fashion these nations after them, with the Christmas, with the turkey. Do you understand that over in other countries they're celebrating Thanksgiving and all these other wicked man-made holidays that the West created, right? That don't even have nothing to do with their culture, but have been imposed on them. And for some, they like the culture, some like it, some have taken to it and uplifted. Like, they say in Africa, during the Christmas season, that's one of the biggest holidays from them, outside of all their other, naturalistic and other holidays and stuff that they've taken to these. And that's why you sure say all this going to pass away, right? But his words, what he says is not going to pass, but all that going to pass away. So if you're going into Yah's new kingdom, there ain't going to be no Christmas tree. There ain't going to be no Santa Claus. There ain't going to be no Thanksgiving turkey. There ain't going to be no Halloween. There ain't going to be no Ishtar. It ain't going to be. The fashion of it is going to pass away. The Easter suits on Easter, the strutting down with the pastors with the Skittle suits on, all that's going to pass away. It's going to go away because it was never of them. He said all these things the Gentiles seek, but because we went into captivity to the Gentiles because of our denial of the Father, Son, Yeshua, then we were cast down into that situation where the Bible said, envy not your oppressor. Well, we did envy our oppressor because we didn't have anything. And so as soon as we are able to get our head up, we start dressing, talking, all these things, because we got our oppressor's name, we got our oppressor's clothes and all this stuff. We didn't dress like that. But now they spread this and they made the fashion of it all around the world. Why in Africa, in India, and all these places where they have millions upon millions, or in Africa's case, billions of melanated people with skin bleaching claims, one of the number one beauty products for them, and the bleaching products to bleach your hair, all these kind of things, artificial hair, all this stuff. Why is this Brazilian hair and all these different things, hair from India? Because the fashion, we have become slave, and the Most High says time. That's why I thank the Most High for that. The Black Power movement, it was a fashion thing for us with the afros and the different clothes. It wasn't it was a type of us trying to go back, but I think the natural hair care movement and us wearing beards, it's now not a fashion thing. It is a thing of organic. Like, if I didn't put these beauty products in my head to straighten it, my hair would glow. So let me think, on this. It was a mindset change. That's why I don't think you're going to see a lot of us go back, because the Most High knows how to do certain things. And that's why it was so important a couple of weeks ago when these lawsuits start coming out against these hair care products, that a lot of black women, it's going to still be some black women that's going to put, get their hair permed, they're gonna go to the end, right? But when that came out, it solidified the fact that yes, this indeed is causing problems for our women, and any woman that's continually putting this lie and all this other kind of stuff going into your skull, right? And so I thank the Most High for that, right? But the fashion of this stuff is gonna pass away, and we're going to go to our last scripture. We're going to go to 1 Timothy, first chapter. And we're going to tell you how we should fashion ourselves. We're going to go to 1 Timothy. And we're going to go with verse 15. And this is Paul talking to Timothy. He said, "This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation, that Yeshua HaMashiach came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. Howbeit, for this cause I obtain mercy, that in me first Yeshua HaMashiach might show forth all long suffering, for a pattern or a fashion to them that should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting." So Paul was saying, if you want to follow after a fashion, he said, follow after the fashion of me, that Yeshua said, Paul, I'm going to use you as a pattern, as a fashion of how the believer should fashion his life hereafter, after Paul's long gone. And he said, when you read Paul's thing, one of the things Paul said, I have learned how to abound and I have learned how to abase. But more than anything, he learned how to abase himself. He went through a lot of suffering. He said, if you are a believer, learn to pattern your life after this. Meaning, not that if we can get out of, we're not going seeking to suffer. He said, but when it comes, don't think it strange. What did Peter say? He said, think it not strange concerning the fiery darts of stuff that's going to come your way for you. He said, but only thing, just make sure if you suffer, don't suffer as an evildoer. He said, don't think it's strange. It is the fashion, it is the pattern of a believer to go through things because of his or her righteousness. He said, if you're going to follow after a fashion, follow after that. But I'm not saying that we got to go out and we got to go buy the cheapest shoes and we got to buy a rundown house and we got to go get a beat up jalopy. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the West has caused us, right, to follow after fashion to a fault. And that is not of the Most High. Because black people, like I said, add to this 1.7 trillion a year that in this year 2023 is going to be us. And that should not be. Already the Black Friday things are coming out. Already Amazon and all these bringing out, and who's going to be purchasing most of this stuff. And people say, well, it's just good to do good or whatever. I understand, but you understand what we get ready to go into. We have to use a little bit more sense than that. That if you was living in a refugee camp somewhere, would you be going out and doing all this kind of stuff that you're doing? No, you would not. And I'm not telling you to live as if you was in a refugee camp, but you got to put your mindset in a way that some of this stuff is going to pass away. Now, some of the things that I do have, they will accumulate over a long period of time. So I'm not telling you if somebody come in your house and they see you got a lot of stuff that you doing evil because you don't know what people went through to get what they doing. But I'm talking about those that's just starting out and they see what everybody else got and they go into debt to get it. I never bought my children $100 pair of shoes, but they had decent shoes. They had Nikes and different things, but I would not go out and buy them those Nikes, Jordans or anything like that was going to cost a lot. Now, around the time they came out, the internet was there, so they could probably go online and get a pair of used Jordans or something like that. They could do that on their own because they worked in different things. But I would not do that, right? I was not trying to do that. Intentionally, but they had decent stuff. You understand? This is what I'm saying. There's got to be a balance in what we're saying, right? Although like I said, the day is gonna come where and our people, like I said, we already went through that in slavery where we only had the clothes on our back and maybe a pair of shoes that the slave masters might give us. So I'm not saying that our people have never known that. What I'm talking about to all you that don't think on that line that it can never happen, or to the descendants of those that enslaved us that have never experienced that experience is going to come your way one day. And the fashion of it is of all that you got. The fashion of even now, the fashion of being an American citizen is going away because they said a lot of Americans are getting rid of their American citizenship. And the fashion of it is going away. But the fashion of all this is going away. That's what Yeshua said. He said, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words will never pass away. So all this that we see before us one day is going to be gone. Therefore, it's coming upon you, if you're not born again, if you're not saved, that you get saved right now. Above all, make sure that your soul is secure today. Make sure that your sins have been washed away in the blood of Yeshua. Make sure that if you are a believer, that you are mortifying the deeds of your flesh every day. Not to saying that, that you're going to get out there, you want to go to the gym and you want to lose some weight and different things like that so that you can fit into some decent clothes. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying, but let's just be careful that we don't get caught up in the fashion of this world because it's all fading. So with that, I'm going to ask you to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to pray for the channel because here recently I had one of my videos. It was an old video, over a year ago, right? But the YouTube algorithm must have came through and something that I said in the video it didn't like and it took the video down. So, like I said, the fashion of even this YouTube stuff is going to go away. Once they figure they can't let us talk, it's going to go away. It's the fashion of it. It's going to pass away. And this is why you got to get yourself into the word for yourself and know for yourself. So with that, I'm going to tell you shalom and be blessed.